Welcome back to the study, brothers and sisters. This is episode 4. Let's talk about porn. Welcome. Study is brought to you by darkknightrecords.com. Go to darkknightrecords.com and listen to and download all previous episodes of the study. The mixtape is called Back to School. It's free. Download it. The album is called Long Dark Night. Get that, support me, and Dark Knight Records. Our main topic today is porn, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. Why are we going to talk about porn? Because we can here. Most people are not ready for a face-to-face sit-down and exchange of porn habits with me, the next person, their coworker, their, spouse even. So we're going to talk about that amongst ourselves in our own mind and hash this out. Anyway, we're going to be grown in here, so don't expect some dumbass FM morning show hosts FCC'd censored version of the broadcast. We're going to go balls deep into it on the grown folk if you're up to it. So again, this is only grown folk conversation. Before we get to it, real quick, going back to episode 3, One Nation Under a Gun. Just a reminder, the study is about opening and expanding conversation in areas we don't often get to express ourselves in for lots of reasons. Sometimes we can't talk topics like guns with our friends because we have so many different opinions that disagree strongly from each other. And at times, and we just don't want to open up a can of worms with somebody when it could complicate and make, difficult the friendship or relationship, so we don't even go into that shit. I was really happy at the feedback episode 3 received, and I hope the information provided helps you continue the discussion about guns and shit in your own circle of friends and family with an open ear and maximum courtesy. That means, don't get offended. That means whatever the other person thinks, that's what they think. Whatever you think, that's what you think, and if y'all reach some kind of middle ground to open a window or, help each other see a different perspective, cool. If y'all don't, check out, there's nothing you can do. Again, the study is neither here to be for or against guns. The conversation is infinitely fucking deep, and though we can come back to it and probably will come back to it in the future, we're going to move forward. Before we get to our main topic, again, the episode 4 is called Let's Talk About Porn. We're going to do some brief in the news because it's been a little while since I've done the study. I kind of took the rest of the summer to do my own thing. So now that it's back to school time, man, we're gonna hustle. So in the news, some good news. Randomly, don't forget Akon is lighting Africa and has helped provide solar power for an estimated 600 million citizens of Africa. So, whatever the numbers are, hit or miss, however, whatever. He's doing his thing. Other people can learn from that. Musicians, celebrities, sports stars, take fucking note. Take that multi-million dollar paycheck and do something with it for people who can't do for themselves. Dairy-free milk from peas, less expensive and a more sustainable option. According to Dr. Neil Renninger, co-CEO and co-founder of Ripple Foods with Adam Lowry, milk from peas has the same amount of protein, is gluten-free as dairy milk, and is gluten-free, has high levels of vitamin D and calcium, and the water footprint is estimated to be 90% better than dairy or almond milk. I learned that according to them, it takes 1,000 gallons approximately of water to make 1 gallon of dairy milk, and more than a gallon of water to make a single almond. That's the water footprint. So whether you drink dairy milk or almond milk is something to think about. And the late Dr. Sebi said that no one should be drinking almond milk, on a side note, because it has cyanide in it. What do you think? You may like almond milk. You may love almond milk. You may see it as a smart choice to dairy milk. So something to think about. Gene Wilder died, most famously probably from Willy Wonka, though my favorite performance of his was actually in See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Richard Pryor. That shit was funny as hell. His quote that I read online, I don't know, whatever. These memes may or may not be true, but this is a quote that I read. Says, "I'm going to tell you what my religion is. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Period. Terminator. Finito." Whatever. No matter who the fuck said that, sounds good. I've been reading online from several sources that there are now more empty homes in America than there are homeless people. You know, and the numbers vary. One meme even estimated that the banks own 8 million vacant homes, while there are an estimated 62,000 veterans that are homeless. You know, that may or may not be the case. The numbers may be close, it may be spot on, it may be way the fuck off. But how does that make you feel? That lots of people are reporting that there are more vacant homes than there are homeless people. That many of these motherfuckers are veterans. That 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Colin Kaepernick, I don't fucking watch football, from some fucking football team. I think it's the 49ers. I don't give a shit. Is refusing to stand for the national anthem, like I've been doing since fucking elementary school and middle school, like a lot of people have been doing that doesn't make the news. Anyways, it's in the news, people are talking about it, and some people are even following the example. By some people, I mean other athletes. So, I guess that's progress. That's a step forward. As long as that's a platform that people are going to be watching in the millions, that conversation is being brought to their living room and their Instagram and their job, whatever. So, you know, can't hate on that a whole lot. Alicia Keys is starting to go without makeup. Can't hate on that, even though lots of fucking women I know have been going makeup free for a long time and have not been in the news. But now she's put that conversation on the platform. So, what do you think? Makeup free? Or are there reasons? Do you even know what's in your fucking makeup? Do you even know what you're putting through your pores, what that does to you short term, long term? Do you? Police. What can we say about police? Let's see. Let's spin the wheel and stop on... Oh, police and dogs. Let's see. I hear that people who kill a police dog get 45 years. Alright? These are the same police who recently have been leaving dogs in hot cars. On July 2nd, Sergeant Chad Holland, who is 40 years old, a Pennsylvania Department of Corrections officer, was on a training exercise beginning about 12:15 p.m. 2.5 hours later, about 2:44 p.m., he realizes that his dog, Toady, was in the car with other training items that were stored in his vehicle. Ice water and a hose were used, but efforts failed to resuscitate the dog, and the dog was pronounced dead at about 7:30 p.m., according to Inquisitor.com. Also, a South Texas police officer, Juan Cerrillo Jr., was charged in June with cruelty to non-livestock animals when he killed his dog Rex, Belgian Malinois, I think. The officer was set free on $4,000 bond. He was suspended without pay, according to CBSNews.com. Yeah, no bueno. Policías, no bueno. We can do better than that. And that's just fucked up. Moving on, let's talk about porn. Alright, now that I've hit a bowl and had my coffee ready, let's talk about porn. And and by porn, you know, let's remember, porn doesn't just mean porn videos that you're watching on your phone at work while nobody's looking. Porn, what I'm talking about right now, what we're talking about, because this is a private conversation between you and you, is sexual exploitation. And the fact that it's fucking everywhere, all over the world, in all, you know, ways, shapes, and forms, depending on the culture. Anyways, going back to this being a conversation between you and you, if you're riding in the car with somebody right now, this might not be the time for this, because we're going to explore these habits real quick, and you don't want to be looking at the person next to you and just thinking, you know, unless you're ready for that. So, I read something interesting online. Yeah, people write about porn. It's not just, like I said, it's not just videos. It goes like this. I wouldn't phrase it exactly like this, but I thought it was pretty powerful. When young men become trained by pornography, they get married and expect things from their wives that their wives aren't interested in or can't even do. It leads to frustration and anger and shame and insecurity. Pornography does not show you what sex is, it shows you what male lust is. It wasn't quoted with anybody's name on it, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. And like it or not, porn is a part of the culture that we're imprisoned by. So whether or not you watch porn or will admit that you watch porn, no matter how frequent or infrequent. It's a thing, and we got to deal with it, because the bigger question is, what are you going to tell your kids about it? And that's how it's a conversation that's tied to all of us. It's not just about, well, I don't watch porn. Well, that's good, but eventually that's going to come to the table. What are you prepared to do about it? Porn is everywhere. Sexual exploitation of all kinds, and crude humor. Let me put it this way: 10-year-olds are watching, Straight Outta Compton and Deadpool. And that being said, you have to be ready for these kind of conversations. We live in the most influential culture in human history, a culture dominated by backwards ass values, and a culture where sex is thrown in your face from the moment you're old enough to watch Disney movies, the animated ones, because those movies are packed balls deep with sexual innuendo. And all throughout your childhood, teenage years, and through young adulthood, in your movies, dumbass TV shows, shitty music, and magazines, more full of shit than a colostomy bag. Also, you'll likely have a child, and that child will one day, like I said, be exposed to human sexuality. And eventually the conversation about sex and later porn will come about. You need to be prepared. What do I mean by prepared? I mean, just as you mastered the art of masturbation long before participation in the practice of penetration and pounding private parts with a partner, just as you practice and rehearse that important speech, lecture, or song before you give or perform it, you need to have swirled around in your head what you may or may not say, what questions may or may not come up, and what may or may not have been helpful to you in that position. Be who you needed someone to be in your life when you had questions about sex and fucking and lusting and all that. So let's broaden the conversation, not just talk about, do you watch porn? Do you not watch porn? What do you think of the people that do? What do you think of the people that don't? Let's ask ourselves lots of questions. When were we first exposed to porn, and how? Was it with a cousin who was older and decided to fucking play that shit around you because the grown-ups weren't around? Did you accidentally come up on your parents' stash of pictures or magazines or VHSs, or if you're a little bit younger, DVDs and computer porn? Did you have an accidental walk-in on somebody who was watching porn or engaging in something that you weren't ready for? Did you have an accidental late-night channel surf, and your parents had the premium channels, and you saw something that you got real curious about and didn't know what to do about at the time? And in what culture? In what culture were you exposed to porn? In other words, were you exposed to porn in the United States in the 1970s? Were you exposed to porn, in another part of the world in the 2000s, where you may or may not have internet connection and accessibility to this shit is different than what you might know? Like, most of the people that are listening to this podcast, they probably got porn open in another window in their browser right now as they're listening to this fucking podcast. That's how accessible it is to most people in this country, and that's what we know it as. But it might not be that way in all parts of the world. So in what culture we're exposed to porn matters, and in what time matters, because when we took it in and how we took it in makes a difference. I myself wasn't able to accidentally see somebody, peek over the shoulder of somebody and watch them on their phone while on the metro watching porn. That wouldn't happen. You know what I mean? But these days it's very likely that shit could happen. So it's a different exposure. We got to ask ourselves, how did it affect us? When we were first exposed to anything, that makes a huge impression. So when you were first exposed to porn, how did it affect you? It's not as simple as a like or dislike. You may have liked it, you may have disliked it, but it's a lot deeper than that. Did it scare you? Like, was there something that freaked you out? Did it make you curious? Were you like in that mindset where, like, what was that? Like, I want to know. I have questions. I don't mean in a perverted sense curious. I mean, like, I need to find out what the hell just happened. Is this something you can't remember? Like, can you not remember? Or would you just prefer not to talk about it? Like, you can't remember your first experience or exposure to the conversation or the actual, act, some kind of pornographic act. Was it something that you just were like, I can't relate to? Like, I can't see why people would get into this, turn that shit off? That's possible. I've heard people say that. Did we tell anybody or talk with anybody about it? Was it something you kept to yourself? Was there shame attached to it? You know, in this culture where we, you know, we're taught to not peek over at each other's dicks while we're peeing, even though, you know what's over there. It's like we make a big deal out of nothing. Like we build walls where there shouldn't be walls in the first place. Like we create these prejudices and we create these insecurities in ourselves. So there is shame attached to it. That's why, I'm wondering, like, were you ashamed to talk to anybody about it? You're not going to go run and tell your gym teacher or your dad like, Dad, I found your porn stash. It's not likely. Ask yourself now, what role, if any, does it play in your life? In your physical life, like in your like 3D world, in your day in and day out, and in your mind, because the mind affects your fucking actions. And if that shit, you can't be driving and be distracted about fucking what's her name at work. You got to focus on things. So even pornographic thoughts of somebody's spouse or partner, which can be healthy, like thinking about what you're going to do to your significant other when they get home, or on their birthday, or because of this or because of that, that's something that two consenting adults can manage, or about the neighbor's wife, which can be real destructive and lead to real life consequences, outside the mind. So pornographic thoughts affect the life, our lives in many ways. So and the responsible adults can ask, what does it do for us? The whether we frequently, infrequently watch porn, engage in pornographic thoughts, pictures, magazines, whatever, however you take it in. Is it because it's stress relief? Is it because in this day and age where we're working non-fucking stop, we get zero fucking vacation time, and healthy foods and healthy habits are not easily accessible? Money is tight, stress is high. Do we do it for stress relief? Is this something that provides momentary comfort and gets you through to the next thing? Is it a way we deal with anxiety? Does working the kind of job we work, having the kind of life we have, create anxiety, where something like porn or having a beer or watching football or some shit takes the edge off? Some people, maybe what it does for them is it relieves frustration. Maybe they haven't, been with anybody in a bit. Not hating on anybody who's experiencing a drought, but frustration is a bitch, and you might be, you're only human. So frustration, whether you're single, you might be frustrated with the partner you're with. You might be disappointed in the motherfucker you're with right now, and watch porn or engage in pornographic thoughts, or Instagram is porn, Snapchat is porn. Everything on your fucking phone is just a window to porn. No matter what you call it, no matter if you call it Facebook or Pornhub or the Victoria's Secret catalog, or looking out the window to the whoever, do we do it out of loneliness? Like, a lot of people are lonely as fuck. It's people this day and age are getting weird, and it's getting harder and harder to have like real conversation with people. Like, people talk at each other, not to each other. Language is insufficient as fucking. People are lonely as a result of not being able to relate to people and other things, So is it something that people do because they're lonely and they fantasize about, like, if only I had somebody, I might be able to do this kind of stuff. What else? Lack of being able to get oneself out of a particular problem. Depression. Depression. Not having the tools to, talk to the what's it called? The girl next door, or the girl at work, or talk to the waitress, or talk to this girl at the school or whatever in class. Depression for whatever fucking reason. There's something that's unattainable to you. You're trying to have it in your life. You don't have it, and you're frustrated as fuck, and you experience depression. And does it affect the way we behave sexually with a partner, with ourselves? Because masturbation is a topic, and people don't like to talk about it, but you can, talk amongst yourself. Does porn, accessibility to it, frequency affect, yourself in the real world, or with a partner, with expectations, like the quote said, does it create false expectations based on fucked up old values that happen, from a multi-billion-dollar industry finding its way into your home, into your, cable box or internet, and into your head and into your conditioning. We got to ask ourselves, why do we watch porn? That's pretty easy, because we can and we want to. That's why we watch porn. Moving on. It's that fucking simple. What does it do for the people in our lives? Do we watch it with a partner? Do people have these healthy relationships where pornographic, not just videos, but like toys and all kinds of weird shit that people, I say weird, weird to me, but what the fuck is weird to one person is normal to another person. Do you do some shit with your partner that is not something that's dinner conversation or, conversation you want to have around the water cooler at work? You don't want to have your business out there like that. So that might be normal to you and your partner, but knowing somebody at work that in that way, people aren't ready for it. So, what does it do for the people in our lives? Do we hide it from our very own partners or from people in our lives? For example, scrubbing our browsing history at work, or on our phones, or using the other computer in the house. Like if people got multiple rooms, they got that one computer that nobody's allowed to use except for a couple people. If people do it at work, man, I've busted people at work at different jobs. People watch porn at work, man. That's a fucking thing. It happens. Don't act like it doesn't. Ask yourself, how does it affect your productivity at work? How does it affect other people's? Like I say you, I'm talking about like people. How does, porn affect the people in our lives who are affected by our productivity, and the people in our lives who are dependent on us for that productivity? Like whether it's bringing home the bacon, for lack of better terms, like bringing home some money, or being productive at work, or being productive in, whatever, to yourself, getting, exercise, rest, and properly maintaining yourself. Just a few examples. It affects whatever you do. Let's see. The big one. What are we going to tell our kids? Let me clear my throat. What are we going to tell our kids when they ask us about porn? No matter how they might have your phone one day, be looking at for example, whatever social media you have open, your internet browser, your Snapchat, your Instagram, your Facebook that you let your kid use sometimes, and you have something open. They scroll past it and they see, for example, a meme or a picture of a thick ass woman with barely any clothes on, like just some shit that Too Many and I would send to each other over Instagram. Like, they're gonna be exposed to things like that. They're gonna walk into somebody's room and they're watching something on the screen. They're gonna be around their older cousin. They're gonna see it one way or another. What are you gonna tell your kids about porn? It's something that has to come up. Talking about human sexuality with people in general is a very difficult thing. Like, a lot of people skip the topic in general because it's real personal. It's too taboo. Like, we're raised to think that it's just something that's just totally private, and that's just our reality. That's nobody's fault, So, anyways, porn is not something that's that should be taboo in the mind. So, I invite you to open up and discuss this with yourself. Because this shit, like it or not, this shit affects the people in our lives. So just the last couple things before we wrap up here that I wanted y'all to swirl around in your heads in this conversation with yourself. When talking with the next generation and going through your own head about why porn is or isn't part of your life, think about how porn, those of us who've been exposed to it in one way, shape, or form, how porn is nothing like actually having sex. Is very, very little it's like movie martial arts compared to real martial arts and what you might do in a real scenario. It's like, Hollywood versus real life. It's nothing like the real thing. It's not made for realism. It's made for a target demographic. It's shameless. They shamelessly promote. They want to get in your life through everything. There are multi-million-dollar people working in the industry, billions and billions of dollars flowing through it. It's not a healthy industry, you know. No need to get into the nightmare stories that people have talked about from their own perspective in the porn industry, but it's not a healthy pool, you know. So that being allowed into your life in one way, shape, or form is toxic. How much of it you expose yourself to, you know, relates to how much effect it has in your life. And lastly, think about this. A person who never learns what a sexual fantasy is, or has never been exposed to porn, never watches porn, won't ever fantasize, or let me say, has a damn low probability of ever fantasizing sexually about somebody. In other words, looking at this person one way versus somebody who has been exposed. Even someone who they feel an attraction to. So think about that. You know, it's how much, you know, to each extreme has an effect, and all the in-betweens. So there's a lot to talk about. Before we wrap things up, recommended reading, recommended watching. I recommend everybody listen and read The Money Game and Beyond by TVP Magazine, by the Venus Project. Go to www.tvpmagazine.com. I forget what issue number it is, but it's called The Money Game and Beyond. It's a 300-some page PDF read. It's fucking brilliant. It's got visuals and graphs, all kinds of things to help you open up the discussion about this monetary system we live in that funds and fuels a multi-billion-dollar industry like the pornography industry. Recommended watching. I recommend everybody watch this film called Earthlings, a film, you know, made by Sean Monson. I think I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing it. Narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, homeboy that played the villain in Gladiator with Russell Crowe, that dude. So that is The Money Game and Beyond for your recommended reading, and Earthlings for your recommended watching. That's available on YouTube. Again, tvpmagazine.com for The Money Game. In closing, hope you had a bomb-ass summer. Don't know what you did. I got some rest. I took some time to do what I needed to do. So episode 4, let's talk about porn. Let me know what you think. darkknightrecords.com. This is Bones. The Study is the name of the show, the broadcast. Back to School is the name of the mixtape. The album is called Long Dark Night. Go to www.darkknightrecords.com. Listen to all previous episodes of The Study and download. Let me know what you think of episode 4. Let's talk about porn. You know, maybe we'll come back to the issue one way or the other. But have this discussion with yourself. You know, hash it out with whoever in your life is important to hash it out with, you know. And I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.